Hello business law class, I'm Reve and this is my portfolio reflection for this week. So this week we went over chapter 7, which consisted of the contracts and torts, so that's what we learned about. So this week I learned what torts were. It was something that I commonly heard, I felt, but I didn't really know what it meant, and I think that it's also kind of a silly word because it reminds me of tarts, like the pastry, but it actually covers just so many things. I mean, we all read the chapter, but just to go over it a little bit, it made me realize how common torts were, I guess, or how many things fall under the tort umbrella. So in the textbook we learned about negligence being the most common form of a tort, and some other forms. Such as intentional ones and strict liability torts. It took me a minute to remember, but I think that it was sort of consoling to know that these existed, and it was also interesting at the end of the chapter that it included personal opinions and sort of people's thoughts on tort reform. So it makes a lot of sense that people are working in the interests of corporations and companies to restrict tort law and sort of I guess limit strict liability, because it places so much legal blame, I guess, on companies. But it's really consoling, like I said, that these things exist, and if anything they should be strengthened, but they exist for a reason and they provide compensation for people who are wronged. So yeah, it's just a huge umbrella of law. And this chapter really does feel like sort of the cross-section between business and law, because we see how businesses are held accountable to the law with torts and contracts. And it's also interesting that contracts have some key elements to it to be considered like a contract, like with the agreement and the capacity and stuff. And something interesting was something that I found interesting was how much stuff you had to learn. So while I was reading this, I felt like it began to be kind of confusing with all these clauses and stuff in the textbook. So it made me think further about what lawyers really do day to day. And I don't know if this is just specific to tort law, but since it's such a big umbrella and it includes so many things, it made me rethink my own goals of being a lawyer or going to the legal field. And I started rethinking about what I want to do for a career in the future. Oh my god, that was a firework. Oh my god. So I guess this is a more honest reflection, and it's not really anything to do with the textbook, but it is something that I gained as a result from reading the textbook. It made me realize how complicated these things really are, and if I want to be a lawyer, then I have to go to law school. And I'm actually rethinking that right now because it seems pretty complicated. But there are a lot of jobs that you can pursue with a political science major and in the legal field where you're not a lawyer. And some of those things I learned last week because there are people like arbitrators and mediators and people like that. So there will be a job for me one day. Okay, that's it. Thank you.